All right, welcome. Today we're diving into one of the most common and, let's be honest, frustrating battles we all face, the one with our own ego. We're always told to fight it, to crush it, to just get rid of it. But what if that whole approach is wrong? What if the key isn't to fight it all, but to actually understand it? Let's get into it. I mean, does this sound familiar to you? You try to be less prideful, less reactive, less, ego-driven, but it just feels like you're wrestling with yourself. And somehow the ego always seems to pin you down. It's exhausting, right? And it can feel totally hopeless. So check this out. Here's a core idea from our source material that might just flip the script. It suggests that the very act of trying to destroy your ego is what creates the conflict in the first place. I mean, that's a pretty radical thought. Maybe the fight itself is the real problem. Okay, so let's tackle this thing head on. We're about to bust the whole myth of ego destruction and really look at the vicious cycle it traps so many of us in. You can really see the trap here, can't you? It starts simple. Your ego causes a problem. Maybe you get angry because you feel unappreciated. So what do? You create a new, better ego to smack the first one down. But then that ego, the one that's so proud of being humble, well, it needs policing too. So you create a third ego to launch the second one, and it just goes on and on and on. It's a completely futile, never-ending journey. Okay, so if trying to destroy it is a dead end, what's the alternative? It's understanding. So let's start by breaking the ego down into its two core parts, because it's not just this one single monster. Okay, so the way our source material explains it is like this. First, you've got the circumstantial ego. This thing is built from the circumference of your life, your money, your job title, what other people think of you. This is the part of you that gets bent out of shape if your boss praises a coworker, but not you. And then you've got the delusional ego. This one's born at your center. This is that little voice inside that just has to be the smartest, the best, the big boss in the room. It doesn't just feel slighted. It internally burns with this competitive feeling, thinking, I'm better than them anyway. And this, right here, is the core of the whole problem with both of these egos. By its very nature, the ego is temporary and insecure. It literally changes with every single new circumstance. And yet, its one and only mission is to become permanent and secure. And that impossible clash is where so much of our anxiety and frustration really comes from. All right, so what do we do about it? Well, if fighting is a no-go, the real answer is awareness. It's about taming the ego, not destroying it. And you do it through the power of just plain understanding. You can think of it like helping our ego, grow up. An unripe ego is totally reactive. It glues itself to external things like status and is always looking for peace from the outside world, which, of course, just creates anxiety. But a ripe ego, that's a tool. It's something we can use to function in the world, to go to the grocery store, to talk to people, but it doesn't get attached to any of it. It becomes a servant, not the master. Now, this quote uses the word destroy, which I know might sound a little confusing after everything we've said, but think of it this way. When you understand the ego so completely, that understanding itself destroys its power over you. It's not about winning a fight. It's about seeing something so clearly that it just loses its grip on you. This is a cognitive shift, not a battle. So that sounds great in theory, but how do we actually build that understanding? Well, our source gives us a really practical toolkit, a series of 4 states that help you build mental resilience from the inside out. So let's walk through this path. It's a progression, right? First up is sama. This is all about finding that baseline of inner calm. Next is dhamma, which is taking that calm and expressing it outwardly by choosing not to react. Then comes uparama. This is where you learn to keep that calm going all day long. And finally, you get to diksha, which is true, deep endurance. And diksha, that's really the end game here. It's not about gritting your teeth and just putting up with things. No, it's a cultivated inner strength, this unveiled peace that lets you stay steady, no matter what life is throwing at you. The good, the bad, all of it. I love this analogy because it just makes so much sense. You don't go outside and start a fist fight with a blizzard, right? You put on a coat, you put on gloves. Diksha is your internal blanket. It's the calm and awareness you wrap around yourself to get through tough situations without losing your inner peace. So how do we actually do that? How do we put on that blanket? Well, the ultimate practice is to cultivate what our source calls witness consciousness. It's all about creating a little bit of space between you and your thoughts. It all comes down to this one simple but honestly profound idea. The one who observes a thought is not the same as the thought being observed. You're not your anxiety. You are the one who is aware of the anxiety. That little bit of separation, that changes everything. And look, you can try this literally right now. Just for a second, notice your place in the room, your posture, your position. Become aware of the sensations in your body. In that tiny moment of just noticing, you've created a separation. You've become the knower, and the sensations are the known. And that gap, that little space in between, that's where the peace is. And hey, this isn't just some abstract idea. As this person from the source material shared, actively focusing on that space brings a real, tangible experience of peace. It's a practical tool that has some seriously profound results. Okay, let's pull all these threads together with one final, really powerful metaphor that will help you make this a real part of your life. Think of this whole practice like setting your inner GPS. Once you set the destination to inner peace, using this kind of awareness, you can navigate all the twists and turns of daily life without all the stress. The journey becomes almost carefree because you're not freaking out at every traffic jam or wrong turn. You just trust where you're headed. All right, so let's recap. What are the big takeaways here? First, the goal is to tame the ego, not get stuck in that useless cycle of trying to destroy it. Second, cognitive awareness is the absolute key that breaks you out of that cycle. Third, you have a toolkit, Sama, Dhamma, Uparama, and Diksha, to build resilience. And fourth, the core practice is becoming that calm witness to your thoughts. You do all that, and you've set your inner GPS for a life with lasting peace. So I'll leave you with this question. Think about your day today, or maybe tomorrow. Where is that one spot, that difficult meeting, that frustrating commute, that challenging conversation, where you can practice putting on your inner blanket of calm awareness instead of just fighting the weather?